Thanks, Nora, and it's great to see all of you, and great to have the opportunity to have this discussion with G. I feel like G and I are on a call together every other week, if not every other day, because we overlap on different boards and engagements. So when they asked me to do this, I was like, great, it's no problem. I probably could tell G's story, but it's not as good when I tell G's story. It's better hearing it directly from the G. So I think with that, I probably won't give his bio. I think folks have read it before. I think more importantly, let's hear it for G. Beyond just kind of checking in where you are today, maybe tell us kind of how you're showing up today, but then maybe take us back to that origin story. Where's G from? A little bit about your family, and then with the twist, what was your first job? Not like your chores around the house, but the first job where you actually got a paycheck and they took some taxes out of it.
Well, thanks everyone. Thanks for having me. And we just last cohort, I finished the ALF class 42, which I hear from everyone. It's the best class. So. It's interesting. So a little bit about the check-in. I've been, and I don't know, I've ever even told Kemi or Ron this, that I actually moved to San Diego. And I'm here right now. I have boxes there and everywhere. And so I lived most of my career in the Bay Area, in the Silicon Valley. And so it's kind of like, coming here to San Diego is full circle for me. So if I can kind of then go back to the circle, I was born and raised in a place called Pueblo, Colorado. My family's from Mexico. My dad was from Mexico City. But I never knew him because he died when I was about 1.5 years. And my brother was about 4 months old. So my mom had 2 small babies raising us, and eventually remarried. But I grew up in southern Colorado and in the east side of Pueblo, which is very similar to the east side of anywhere, East San Jose. If you go to Pueblo east side, it's like going to the east side in San Jose or in East LA. That's sort of where I grew up. And, but I was always told, especially from my grandmother, my abuelita, that there was something different about me. And I never knew what she was talking about. She just always kept reinforcing. She used to tell me someone is going to, and obviously in Spanish, but someone's going to change the world. Why not you? And that really stuck in my head. So if you ever hear me talk, you'll always hear me talk about that, because it's like someone's going to change the world. Why not you? Especially as we're going through these graduations, been on several talks with students. Hey, someone's going to change the world. Why not you? And so why the full circle, Jason? When I left, graduating high school, I knew that I was going to get a degree, but unfortunately we didn't have a lot of money. So the path to my degree was directly, I was 17 years old when I joined the U.S. Navy. And so, yes, I did get a paycheck before washing dishes, or I don't know, under the table or whatever. But my real first job was getting a paycheck from the U.S. government, the U.S. Navy, when I was 17 years old. And so that full circle now goes back to when I landed. I was just going to turn 18 years old, and I landed in this place called San Diego, California, to go to boot camp. And that's kind of why I said I've come kind of full circle now at the end, sort of the horizon of my career to back to the beginning of it. That's kind of the full circle moment for me.
Awesome. Well, what a wonderful place to complete the circle in bright and sunny and fantastic weather of San Diego.
Unfortunately, it's probably sunnier there than it is here.
Yeah, you're not going to get any sympathy from me. It's always just that San Diego haze that you have to get through. So, okay. So your path to college was through the U.S. Navy. Tell us where you went to college. If I remember correctly, it's a Jesuit university, which is very dear to my heart. Those Jesuits. And then from the university, what was your first job? And tell us how you eventually made it to the C-suite at Cisco.
Yeah. So after the Navy, I actually landed. My last base was in Alameda, California. So that's kind of how I got sort of acclimated to the Bay Area. And I didn't go to university right out of the Navy, because I didn't had money, but I wanted to be wise about it. But I started working right out of the Navy at a company called ELSA Corporation in Palo Alto, and ELSA was a pharmaceutical. Ultimately, got acquired by Johnson and Johnson, and I spent 2 years there, and I spent 2 years at De Anza and Foothill College. Going through community college, and that's why I always tell different students is your path isn't always go right out of high school into university. There's different paths for different people. My path was Navy Community College, and then I went back home to finish my degree at a Jesuit university called Regis University in Denver. And I was working, this whole time I was going to school, I was working full time, and always in tech. I was a telecommunications manager, network manager at a company called, it's now called Ingram Micro. So Ingram Micro Systems, a large computer reseller. That's where I started. I was one of the OGs I was kind of like IT guy number one. And so, finished my degree there, finished my tenure, and I got recruited back to the Bay Area by a company called Silicon Graphics, SGI. And SGI, I ended up as a manager of the network and the building out the worldwide network there, where I spent about 4.5 years, and then I got building out that network for Y2K. If you remember that whole area, that was like, oh, the world's going to end. We need to upgrade our systems and so forth. And I got recruited by a small company called Cisco, and that was in '99. I joined Cisco right after Y2K, and sort of built up, my portfolio of different jobs at Cisco. Not just the infrastructure network side, but I went to the business side, built up all the applications. And ultimately in 2014, when John Chambers decided he was going to retire, they called me up and said, hey, are you ready? And I'm like, I had a great relationship with them. And I'm like, are you ready? Gee, are you ready? And I said, yes, I'm ready. Then we're ready to tell you you're the new CIO at Cisco. So that was 2014. A chief information officer. I think everyone hopefully knows what CIO. But I did that until 2019. I spent my last year just working with customers, and left Cisco in February of 20 to start up a whole new platform and a whole new company to hopefully raise more of our Latino and underrepresented youth into tech.
That's awesome. But before we get into Conectado, because I definitely want to talk about that, but can you tell us a little bit about your time at Cisco? Because large corporations are that they're really, really large, and Cisco was the largest of the largest at that time. They were kind of setting the pace for Silicon Valley, I certainly, my background was at HP. Cisco came along, and I think John Chambers did a great job of carrying that torch forward in terms of what, Cisco being a mainstay and a great foundation for the Silicon Valley community. But how did you learn to navigate inside of Cisco? What was the role of mentors and, kind of sponsors in your career? And can you point to like anything that was like the turbocharger that like, yeah, I could see a path to getting to the C-suite? What was it? And my guess it wasn't any one thing, but like, what were the combination of things that helped propel you forward?
Well, I think in my career, I could go all the way back. There was nobody that looked like me, right? And at least in the technical space that I was in. There was a few people. There was one in particular, Carlos Dominguez, but he was more on the sales side. He was a leader at Cisco, and I he helped me sort of navigate some of the path there. But mostly it was really, and it goes back to the Navy, where I learned how to connect with different cultures, different people. In the U.S. Navy, there's only less than 10% of the force is Latino. So you have to figure out how to navigate and work with others. And I think that helped me in the rest of my career. And so being able to connect with people, being able to connect with different cultures, I guess they didn't call it DEI back there, but it was what it was. And so I was able to just really kind of raise my hand. It's like, hey, again, someone's going to do it. Why not you? And so I raised my hand in tough situations. And that caught on to especially some of the leaders at Cisco, John Chambers, the ones that I really give most of the credit in terms of bringing me up at Cisco were really two people, Randy Pond and Rebecca Jacoby. And I think some of you might know Randy Pond. He's an ALF alum as well, a fellow, and he, they had my back. And they, initially they were my mentors, but then, I learned about, they kind of now shifted to becoming sponsors, and mentors talk with you. Sponsors talk about you, especially when you're not in the room. And so they always, pushed me. And when I raised my hand, it was like, hey, if you're going to take this on, you better do a damn good job. And I knew I had to be accountable to them. So it's a two-way street, right? So they have your back, but you better have their back, because they're putting their badge on the line. And I think I give most of credit to Rebecca Jacoby, who was, she was just a rising leader at Cisco, who always had my back. But through, she threw tough punches at me too, and wouldn't let me kind of, just get over on the easy route. So raising my hand, getting into the shit. Right. And showing them it's like, hey, I can deliver big things, but I can also connect with the people, with the team, but also, helping the team navigate with the leadership. And I think, those things really, really helped a lot.
That's awesome. And I do want to get to connect out of the next here, but I do want to ask, because you said, look, you were thrown into the shit in some of these situations, and I can certainly attest. My career has not been perfect. I've struck out. A number of times. That haven't always been home runs. What about you? What are some experiences where you're like, man, that was a mistake? What was one of those, or a couple of those times? What did you learn from it? And when you had to kind of face and talk with your sponsors about that. How did that go? Again, there was once I had a boss who said, I always want to hire somebody who's had some big mistakes because they made the mistake on somebody else's dime and not on mine. And so they'll learn from it, and they're going to they're not going to do the same thing again. So can you just talk about that? Because I think it's an important thing for us all to learn from that. That we make mistakes at times. They're not we're not perfect. The failures do happen.
Yeah, no, I think they happen all the time. And if you're not failing, you're not taking risks, right? I think, sometimes, we use this term called agile methodology, and it says fail fast and fail often. And I don't, to me, that's a negative context. I like to say learn fast, learn often, but in those learnings, you're kind of, there's some failures. And I think I remember back in 2005, we were doing a major system. I mean, we had big systems at Cisco, right? We were running, $20 billion through these e-commerce systems. And we did this upgrade, and I kind of gave instructions to, let's just do it. And it failed. And it was like, we were down. We were hard down for, half a day. And every hour that you're down, you're losing hundreds of millions of dollars. Now, when you're smart, you have a plan, you can recover from that. But it was like, I was on the spot, and I remember there was an all hands, not an all hands, but a small leadership event during that time, and I said, I'm going to stand up, and I got in the middle of the room, and I said, I know that there's a problem here. I know that we screwed up, and we're going to fix it. We're 24/7. I'm here until this is fixed. And hey, I didn't know if my badge was going to work the next round, the next couple of days. But, it's like, you gotta step up when it's good. You got to step up when it's bad. And that shows the team behind you that you have their back, because it wasn't just me that, I made the decision. It was the team, but it was like, yeah, but it's on me. I'm the leader, but I have your back. And if anybody's going to go down, it's me. And I used to tell Rebecca until one day she called me on it and said, I throw my badge on the table. And she goes, all right, let me grab that badge. And I'm like, I'm just kidding. I'm just, but it was that. It was like, when times are good, I mean, we had great times, but we also had really tough, crappy times. And it's those moments, when you raise your hand in those moments is when I think those were accelerators for me, where people felt like, okay, this guy is a leader. No matter what happens, he can, he will be there for us, right?